12 noon, we're live on City Line. Hi, I'm Jackie Hall.
Hello, I'm B.T. Bentley. They claim to be the true children of Israel, yet they constantly face deportation from their homeland.
In the late 60s, they were a group of black Americans who left this country to settle in Israel.
In Israel, they have been the focus of much controversy for themselves and the Israeli government.
Prince Aiel Ben Israel, spokesman for the Black Hebrew Israelites, is with us to discuss his group's beliefs and conflicts.
Gaining support for the gay rights bill. I'm T. Montier, and we'll talk about efforts to do that.
Hi, I'm Harold Anthony, and today on the entertainment page, because so many of you requested it, I'll be showing you the latest video from M2 May.
Linda Gerard, whose family hosted Jesse Jackson during his presidential campaign, has been harassed ever since. She's with us today to tell her story.
Black Hebrew Israelites and Linda Gerard next, live on City Line.
Good afternoon and welcome to City Line. Thank you for joining us today. Our topic is the Black Hebrew Israelites.
But before we meet Prince Aiel, who is a spokesman for the group, we would like to share with you a brief segment of tape provided by the African Hebrew Israelites.
The quality of the tape is not quite up to broadcast standards, but hopefully it will provide you with a glimpse at the lifestyle shared by those African Hebrew Israelites living in Israel.
The elders here all have good health. In the mornings, we usually walk, jog, exercise, or go bike riding. We have a busy life. I just had a feeling that it was time for me to come, and I just picked up and left and came to Israel, knowing this was my home.
When I was a young child, Grandma would always talk to me. One day soon you're gonna need somebody to help you find your way.
Home is a cluster of prefabricated buildings in the town of Dimona, home as well to other immigrant communities, but the rest of them clearly Jewish in identification. The Black Hebrews are set apart, living in their own self-contained neighborhood, with their own lifestyle and institutions, their own music, reflections of their collective experience.
Okay, we'd like to welcome our guest this morning, Prince Aiel Ben Israel. Thank you very much for joining us today. Prince Aiel, it was a very interesting tape, and I guess our interest in it was getting some idea of the lifestyle shared by the Black Hebrew Israelites residing in Israel. First of all, can you tell us whether or not that particular settlement is the focus of the community, or whether or not they are spread about, or what?
First, let me thank you for extending the invitation to myself and the community to expose the Baltimore, Washington area to the great work that's being done on behalf of African people from America and the world in general, as it relates to the positive things happening in the Holy Land. Yes, that is a microcosm of what takes place in Dimona. Let me give you a little background so you can really understand and appreciate what you saw. When our people were torn from the shores of Africa, they were a people. They had a land, a language, and a culture. When we were taken from Africa, we were men and women of God with vision and purpose and a destiny. The 400 years of dehumanization in America destroyed that, our language, our land, and our culture, and most of all, our relationship with our God. In 1967, as America was burning in its major cities, the expression of freedom took many forms. There were those who wanted voters registration, there were those who wanted to integrate, and there were those who wanted to separate. We chose to return back to Africa to reconnect ourselves with our land, our language, and our culture. So what you saw is that community developed independent of the American thought.
Let me interrupt just for a moment to ask you, you feel that you are the true children?
Beyond a shadow of a doubt. And the reason I say that, if one looks historically at African people in America, black Americans, we see that we sung songs like I Want to Walk in Jerusalem Just Like John, Canaan's fair and happy land where all my possessions lie. These were the oral history of our people. And we know then that when we began to leave here, our longing to go back to Jerusalem was not just one from an emotional point of view, but from an historical point of view. And African historians have verified that the true people of the Bible are an African people.
Is your community a religious community, an ethnic community, a cultural community, or all of the above?
It is all of the above. You see, we as a people are not just religious, we are very spiritual people. Well, not only are we Christians and Muslims and Hebrews, but what we are, we believe in one God, He that created the heavens and the earth. But more than that, we as a people have something to offer the world. And what we have to offer the world is a new direction from the insanity in which the world is rushing on.
But what is the source of controversy in Israel? That has cropped up,
One of the
in a number
things
of areas.
that developed in the early days, what we like to identify as institutionalized racism. When we went there, there are 102 nationalities living in the land of Israel. 89 languages are spoken, people from all over the world. But when Africans from America went and said that we historically identify with that, all of a sudden all hell broke loose and said you couldn't possibly be. You're Negroes, you're colored, you're blacks, you're coons, you're tappings. We have the power to define who we are. So now the people realize that we are legitimate and our presence now have a different meaning.
We'd like to invite our home audience to join in our discussion by calling us at 481-1313 so that you can be in touch with Prince Aiel. BT?
I guess I'm still having a little difficulty understanding the controversy there. Understanding that racism is something that exists both over there as well as here and around the world to a certain extent. Is the controversy not more centered on the religious aspect of the philosophy that your community
No,
follows?
it couldn't be. You see, there are 600,000 Jews in Israel does not even believe that the state of Israel ought to exist as it presently stands. 300,000 Jews marched last year against the war in Lebanon, peace now. There are those who are called the ultra-Orthodox Jews, neutral katra, who don't believe that the state of Israel ought to exist until the Messiah comes. So there are many levels of different opinions as it relates to our political position there.
Okay. We're going to come back with Prince Aiel and discuss this issue a lot further. If you'll join us right after this break.
About the original Black Hebrew Israelites with Prince Aiel, who is the spokesman for the group. Prince Aiel, what evidence do you offer that proves, in essence, that your group really is the chosen group?
Well, it's not so much our group as such as it is from a historical point of view. When one simply goes into the Bible, the book that everyone uses in the Tanakh, and you go into the 9th and the 10th chapter of Genesis, you find the lineage or the historical line of the people who now populate the earth. You'll find that Ham was one of the sons of Noah. Ham had 4 sons, Mitzrayim, which is Egypt, Put, which is Libya, Cush, which is Ethiopia, and Canaan, which is Israel. Well, it would be impossible to have 3 black sons and 1 white son. So same father, same mother, historically is just sound. Egypt is northeast Africa. The children of Israel lived 430 years in ancient Egypt. They just simply walked across the desert. They went from the Sinai and land of Goshen to the land of Canaan.
But Jews, as we traditionally know Jews, only because we're not as familiar with your group, say that they are the chosen people. And now you're saying that your group, your community is the chosen people.
Well, one will know the children of God by their deeds and not by their words. You know the tree by the fruit that it bears. We're not judging people on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character and what they're doing for the world. You see, there are those in South Africa who are now calling themselves Afrikaners, and they come out of British, and they come out of the Netherlands, and they come out of Germany. If we only go by what one calls themselves, then there's no way to determine that.
So then are you disavowing the heritage of the Jews who are outside of your community?
I'm not disavowing the heritage of anyone. I'm just affirming the heritage of black people in America as being the descendants of the true children of God, or the Hebrew Israelites, you see. Okay. So those who are saying that they are the sons and the daughters of Abraham, we say, bring forth your works.
Okay, we're going to bring our home audience in. We have a caller on the line now who'd like to talk with you. Go ahead, please.
I would like to know what type of racism problems does he experience and how do they deal with it?
Well, one of the major concerns that has always been facing the community is accessibility to our community by the outside world. As you know, if tourists, be they black or white, come to the land of Israel and want to see our community, they are harassed, arrested, and deported at the airport. So they've tried to effectively cut us off from the outside world to project us as some radical extremist cult of people. But because God is great, we've had great people like Joe Allen from the Urban League, Marion Logan from the Human Rights. We've had Congressman Merv Diamondley, Congressman Gus Savage. We've had educators from all walks of life, medical people come, and they've exposed this hypocrisy and this lie. So the racism now is taken on another form. They're trying to say now we are anti-something, but we are just simply pro-righteousness.
Isn't there also the element that the Israeli government find that you're a bit too isolated and perhaps plotting something against the government?
That is as far from the truth as can be. We live in a city of 32,000 people in one city, 13,000 in another, and the other is 7,000 people. We are 30 seconds from the police station and maybe 5 minutes from one of the major military bases.
And what are your numbers? What are your numbers?
Our numbers are approximately 3,000 men, women, and children in 3 cities in the land of Israel.
Okay, let's take another call from home. Hi, you're live on City Line.
Hello?
Yes, you're live on City Line. Please go ahead.
Okay, sir, I would like to ask you, what year was it that you started going over?
1968.
At that time, who was clearing the paperwork for your passports and at this end at least?
Well, the State Department handles all passport applications on this end.
Okay, were any questions asked of your group members at the time of what your plans were?
I have no idea, but 18 years ago, you don't, in a passport application, all one simply has to do is fill out an application. It's personal business where he's going.
Sir, caller, please let us know what it is that you're after. What is your point?
Okay, where I'm coming from is that in 1968, all of this is kind of before the emergence of the cult groups, the so-called cult groups, religious cult groups that we now have here in our own country, right?
Well, one of the main religious cult groups started with the Protestant movement when they broke away from the Catholic Church by Martin Luther. So I think that you do a disservice to the audience to always interject those negative kind of connotations when black people begin to choose their destiny. Historically, people have always left countries where they felt that they was oppressed, depressed, and suppressed, and we left because of that.
True, but my question, sir, is why the Israelis, of all people, why they should reject you?
Well, we have no answer to why the Israelis would reject us no more than we have any answer to why white America continue to subject and reject black America.
We'd like to thank the caller for his questions. Prince Aiel, there are also a number of members of your community who reside in the United States. Is their intent to migrate to Israel, or will they continue to live here as missions of your following, or what?
Well, they have the choice. You see, when a person is free, they have the choice to live wherever they want in the world. What we've done for our people is to say to them that they, being an international person again and people again, they have the choice to live wherever they want. We have people that live in West Africa, we have people that live in East Africa, and we have people that live in Northeast Africa, Jerusalem.
Okay. Let's take a question from our studio audience. Yes, sir, you have a question for Prince Aiel?
Yes, I do. My name is Musa Bey, and I'd like to thank the Prince for coming and sharing his truth with us. My question is that I am of Moroccan descent, born in America, Moorish American, yes, and we share very similar thoughts on a lot of things. My question is there a particular contact person that we should get with in order to share the type of things that we have similar so that we can forward community-type projects?
I think that that's an excellent question. Let me just back up a little bit. For the last 7 months, I've moved across the country and across the world touching base with the positive people in our communities, both men and women. I've met with the major leadership as well as those who are not so vocal and said that we must sit at the table of brotherhood and unity so that we can bring about our common concerns and eliminate those things that are different. Before the program is over, we will definitely give out a name and an address where all people can contact us. But we are one people. We have now beat our weapons of war into pruning hooks and plowshares, yes, and we will be one people again.
Yes, sir. Thank you for that question. Prince Aiel, in the 60s, you moved from this country to Israel.
Yes.
What kind of an adjustment was that, coming from a highly technological society with all of the conveniences and going to start basically afresh?
Well, there are a few of us who had that kind of exposure, but most of black America, if you ride through Baltimore, does not live at that level.
But they do have running water and televisions and things of that nature.
Well, they have televisions in Africa and throughout the world, too. The point I was making is that the difficulty was not so much an adjustment of material substance as it was of an emotional substance. We went from a beggar status, being a people who were begging for our food, to those who began to grow food and build houses and educate our own children. So the adjustment was a cultural shock at a level of being from invisible to visible. So that was the level. But over in Africa and in Israel, these are very highly technological societies. And the greatest thing about it is that we are doing it for ourselves now.
Okay. We will continue our discussion with Prince Aiel in just a moment after this break.
We're back live on City Line. Our guest today is Prince Aiel ben Israel, International Ambassador for the Black Hebrew Israelites. Right now, we'd like to go right to our studio audience for another question.
Okay, hello. My name is Nanette, and I have a question concerning a program I saw in 60 Minutes where they were talking to Ben Ami, and the point of mass suicide was brought about. Now, I'm not trying to be on a negative tip or anything, but I have a loved one in Israel, and I was wondering if anything like this should ever come to light.
Well, we've been out of America 18 years, and I would think by now, with all of the hell and the pressure that the Israelis have put on us, we would have long since killed ourselves if that was our purpose. But I don't think we would have spent all that money and all that time to go to Israel to die. We'd have just stayed in Baltimore and they did an overdose or drank some whiskey or got run over or got mugged. We're about life, and we're about living life. We have become positive so that our people historically can see the strength of us as a people. We have no desire. If you ever read about anything happening to us, we were mass murdered. We were not mass suicide.
And on that tip, I'd like to say, Parakia, I love you.
Excellent.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Again, a question from home. Hi, you're live on City Line. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please go ahead and just talk directly to us, please.
Okay, yes. I have quite a few friends that are Israelites. They went to New York in about 1972, and they came back Israelites. And I'd like to know, okay, they don't believe in the New Testament, and they don't believe Jesus Christ is God's son. And I'd like to know why.
Well, I have no idea on that group of people that you're speaking about, because what we do, we deal with the whole of the scriptures from Genesis to Revelation, and we understand all of the roles that the prophets, and including Jesus, had to play. So we have nothing to say about that except we take all of it, and it's all good for our people.
Okay. We have another question from our studio audience. Yes, sir, you have a question for Prince Aiel?
Yes, sir. My name is Kim Moyer. I am a student of life. What I'd like to ask the brothers, first of all, who are the Falashas, and are you connected with them in any way? Secondly, I had always thought of Jewish people, or Hebrews, if you could designate what those terms mean, as being a religious group as opposed to a racially identifiable group. What has the media done in terms of bringing about that type of distinction?
Well, to the first question first, Falashas are a name of those who have been given who lived in Ethiopia, the African Hebrews who lived in Ethiopia. They are called the Falasha Jews, or the Lost Jews as it is translated. They became officially recognized as descendants of the tribe of Dan in 1975 by the Israeli government. They look like you and I. So an African presence has always been there. Secondly, to the question of whether Hebrew or Jewish is a religion or a race, it's debatable. Sammy Davis can become Jewish, just like you can become Roman Catholic, but that does not make you an Italian. That does not make him a European. You see, what we must understand is that the true Hebrews are those who are descendants of the biblical Israelites. When we say descendants of the biblical Israelites, we say that we are the descendants of Jesus, Moses, Solomon, David, and all of this blood flows through our veins now. Those who choose to adopt that religion or that faith can be of any race as long as you take on those principles. This is what we're talking about.
Do you define those people as being African that you just mentioned?
The original people are African people.
Thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thanks for your question.
Yes. We'll take another call from home. Hi, you're in touch. Caller?
Hello?
Yes, you're in touch. Please go ahead.
Yeah, my name is Kingsley. The last time I was watching the program about a black that moved to Israelite, I understand that they lost their U.S. citizenship. And now that they are not accepted as Israelite citizens, so how do they move around? Can they move from one country to another without traveling documents?
Well, as you know, that the United Nations provide for those who are stateless citizens, and they give them travel documents. That's number one. Number two, we did not lose our American citizenship. We renounced our American citizenship. There is a difference. We feel that in 1854, when the Supreme Court of the United States said that there is no law that a white man ought to respect as it relates to black men, we knew that the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendment could not legislate us into humanity. We had always been a people. So we took the power to define and our destiny back into our hands. We move around the world because we're intelligent men and women, and we make the necessary contacts with international organizations or governments to get travel documents.
Okay. I'd like to take another question from the audience. Yes, sir.
Thank you. Prince Aiel, when something happens in Ireland, the Irish American community rallies, raises money, write Congress in support of what's happening in Northern Ireland. When something happens in Israel, the Israeli community rallies in America and raises millions of dollars in behalf of what's happening in Israel. I'd like to know from you, what could this 30 million black people in America do to support the racism that's being perpetrated upon our people, since we are taxpayers and our money goes toward the support of the state of Israel? What can we do to help?
I think one of the main things you need to contract your congressional leadership and let them know that the $3 billion gift that is being given to Israel must be stopped until justice and human rights are given to Africans from America who presently live in Israel, who choose to reside there or just want to visit there. Secondly, I think that they ought to go and make this a public information across the country so that they will see that the people who are now living outside of America are fulfilling Martin Luther King's dream when he said, "I've been to the mountaintop and looked over and seen the promised land." There's only one promised land in the world, and that promised land was called the Holy Land, and that's where black people from America are now residing.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for the question. We would like to mention a book that discusses quite a bit about the experience and the background behind the Black Hebrew Israelites. It's called God, the Black Man and Truth, and it's by Ben Amin, who is the leader of the...
That's correct. Of the community and also leader to African people throughout the world.
That's right. Okay. Prince, I guess one thing that we haven't really touched on was why all the controversy centers on your existence in Israel. We're about out of time. Could you very quickly say what else there is about the Black Hebrew Israelites?
Well, once our people in America realize that they're God's chosen people and not God's rejected and despised people, they will lift themselves up in a new world and a new future, and a new destiny will be at hand.
All right. Thank you very much. We'd like to thank Prince Ben Israel for being with us. Thank you very much. We'll be back right after these messages.
Good afternoon. Topping today's news cap. For the first time ever, sickle cell patients have a reason to smile. The reason? Doctors have cured a case of the dreaded disease and are hopeful others will benefit as well. The life-saving therapy involves bone marrow transplants, now used mainly to treat leukemia victims. Sickle cell anemia affects 1 in every 600 blacks in the U.S. In a speech to cable television professionals, Congressman Perrin J. Mitchell has called for higher levels of black and Hispanic participation in the planning, engineering, and packaging of cable systems in cities throughout the country. Minorities own less than 1% of the more than 5,000 cable television systems in America. Mitchell wants to see that changed. He says he supports legitimate joint ventures and multiple franchises to promote use of skilled minorities in their areas of expertise. One of the more controversial bills facing this session of the Baltimore City Council is Bill number 187, which would include the word sexual orientation to the Civil Rights Bill, protecting homosexuals and lesbians from housing, job, and public discrimination. Not all members of the City Council are in support of the bill. Joining me now is Reverend Jenny Boyd Bull, a member of the Coalition for Passage of 187. Reverend Bull, thank you for joining us. The last gay rights bill was introduced to the City Council 4 years ago, and it didn't fare too well. How do you think it'll do in this session of the City Council?
We are quite hopeful. We have just this past week put together a rally and march and vigil that was very well attended and included support from 66 area religious leaders, including 44 Catholic priests and nuns, Dr. Douglas Miles with the Baltimore Ministerial Alliance, Reverend Herbert Valentine of the Baltimore Presbyterian leadership, and a number of others. And we find this kind of broad-based community support, in addition to the over 700 people who came out for the march and vigil itself, shows that there is a changed attitude in this city and that we are ready to catch up with other metropolitan areas such as Philadelphia and Washington, D.C., and even Howard and Montgomery counties, which have passed this basic civil rights legislation that protects gays and lesbians as any other city.
As for the Baltimore City Council, you need 10 votes, is that right?
Yes.
Now, what's the strategy? What's Tommy Waxter's strategy? He will introduce the legislation, I understand.
His strategy is to bring the bill out to the floor for a vote when he believes that we have the 10 votes necessary for passage, and we are hopeful that that will happen and are certainly working towards that goal.
I think one of the reasons City Council members are not supporting the bill is that some say they have not seen clear-cut examples of discrimination against gays in housing, job, and public places. What examples and how many examples do you have of discrimination against gays here in Baltimore City?
I served for a couple of years on the Washington, D.C. Human Relations Commission and know that when you have the legislation in place is when you have the documentation. There's no facility for documentation at this point. What I know is that at the rally last Sunday evening there were a number of people with bags over their heads because they were afraid of being fired from their jobs. And I, as a pastor, hear many stories from people who were fired, who are refused housing, who have a number of other examples of being discriminated by people who don't like them, and that's no reason to discriminate in our culture.
Reverend Bull, thank you very much. In other news, foreign correspondents in South Africa protested strongly to that government Friday after police confiscated film taken by 2 overseas television crews during the funeral of a black youth. The crews were covering the funeral of a student leader who was among at least 40 persons killed during violence in townships around Johannesburg over the past month. South African police say the film was taken because it furthered the aims of a banned organization, the African National Congress. And finally, Michael Jackson may be one of the biggest names in entertainment today, but he has also one of the biggest hearts, as we hear in this report from Cynthia Ellison.
I want you to know that I've decided to donate all my money I make from the performance to charity.
That little statement sent hearts fluttering across America. While fans rocked to the music of the Victory Tour, charities could be heard to be singing, "Let It Be Me." But if you want to be blessed by the glove, you don't call him, he calls you. And then his hired hands and mouths call a news conference. So the suspense was killing us. Michael wasn't there, but finally his personal manager, Frank DeLeo, announced the 3 winners. First, the United Negro College Fund. Second, Camp Good Times in Malibu, which helps out terminally ill children. And third, the T.J. Martell Foundation for Leukemia and Cancer Research. They will blissfully split 3 ways Michael's share of the money made from the Victory Tour, which he's splitting 6 ways with his brothers.
Michael won't accept a dime for all his labors. As you can see, he is a very special human being.
But despite all the smiling, nobody was or apparently ever will be interested in telling us how much money the charities will receive.
Because I think it's something personal. I think it's, we're letting you know what we're doing, but I think what the actual figure is between them. I think that some things are sacred, and I think that's something sacred.
From Hollywood, Cynthia Ellison.
And that is today's newscap. I'm T. Montier. More of Cityline up next. Have a good Sunday.
recall, in April of this year, Jesse Jackson stayed with a family overnight in the Dundalk area, an unemployed steelworker, Linda Gerard, and her family. She's with us now to kind of bring us up to date as what has happened to her since that time. Welcome to City Line. And with her is Keith Brooks, who is with the United Committee of the Unemployed. And Keith and some others have established a Linda Gerard Defense Fund. Welcome to City Line. Tell us, Linda, what has happened to you since April, and why is there a Linda Gerard Defense Fund set up to benefit you?
Well, before I say anything, I would like to thank all of those that have come forward in my support. Welfare Rights, United Committee for Unemployed
Okay, but
People.
why are these people supporting you? What is the reason? What has happened to you since April?
Well, since April, since hosting Reverend Jackson, I've been arrested for welfare fraud. The Department of Social Services found that my husband was back when Reverend Jesse was there, and they took away my rights then, not my rights, my benefits then, and they restored them later that day.
This is, as a result, specifically you feel of Reverend Jackson staying in your home. Is that correct?
I feel it is, yes.
Is it because you're a white family and Reverend Jackson is a black man?
I feel it is, that it's a lot of racism there.
An attack personally on you?
Yes.
Okay, so first your benefits were cut off, they were restored. What is the situation now?
Well, I'm currently receiving welfare, but it's just not enough to live on.
But wasn't there also the issue of your accepting a part-time job with the Baltimore County Department to drive a school bus?
I think that that's one of the things that my attorneys advised me not to discuss.
Okay, Keith, let's get you in here. You are familiar with what has happened. Could you give us a bit of a larger picture?
Right. I mean, I think it's very clear that if people remember, Jesse Jackson was expected to do well in Baltimore City, majority black. Baltimore County is predominantly white. Linda Gerard lives in an area of Baltimore County that's hard hit by unemployment. The day of Jackson's stay, there was tremendously positive publicity. And I think what happened was that some people felt very threatened by Jackson's appeal to poor white people by the fact of Linda and her husband Bill standing up visibly and publicly in support for Reverend Jackson. 2 days after he was there, Camille Wheeler, who is the head of the Baltimore County Social Services, actually went to the media without ever investigating or questioning the Gerards and announced through the media that their benefits were being cut off because they were living together when their welfare application stated they were separate. That charge proved to be false. They, in fact, were separate. Okay? I asked Camille Wheeler publicly, how often does the Department of Social Services announce the status of welfare clients through the media without ever questioning or investigating them? Okay, that charge was dropped. The welfare department continued to go after Linda Gerard. They charged that she was working as a part-time bus driver, that she didn't report income. Linda Gerard is barely surviving. Welfare Rights paid her rent 1 month, UCUP paid her rent 1 month, the Jesse Jackson campaign, Wendell Phillips paid her rent 1 month, and the steelworkers paid her. This is the woman that they're charging with welfare fraud because they say she didn't report income of $7 a week to a maximum of $75 a week.
Okay, let's really look at this in perspective at this point. I know that you can't discuss the litigation, Ms. Gerard, but certainly in retrospect you must have some feelings about your decision to allow Reverend Jackson to spend some time with you. Do you have any regrets? Are you sorry that you did it?
I don't have any regrets. We're not sorry we did it. It was an opportunity to talk to one of the president-elect people, and I'm not sorry that we had Jackson.
Would you do it again if you were asked to house him?
Yes.
Were you politically active prior to April when you welcomed him to your home?
Not a lot.
But you were?
Well, I was involved with the United Committee for Unemployed People, and that was about the extent of my political
I think Linda's too modest. She's the head of a food committee in Local 2609 for unemployed steelworkers. Linda Gerard also is one of the people who helped organize the fight to save someone's house in southwest Baltimore, a black man who was about to lose his house a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Linda Gerard was involved in that effort.
We're going to try to involve our home audience. Hi, you're live on City Line. Do you have a question?
Yes, I would like to know, what I have found out and in talking with several people is that it was a black woman who first told about Mr. Gerard, and it was just like she was just angry because...
Could you make your point quickly, please?
Jesse Jackson was staying at Mr. Gerard's home, and she was in charge of the county and Dundalk Social Services, and I'd like to know if this is true.
Thank you. Do you know that, Keith? Linda?
I think that's hearsay. I think it's almost irrelevant to the point that Camille Wheeler went to the press, made statements. The Department of Human Resources, Ruth Masinga, they did not have to pursue this as a criminal fraud case.
Let me ask you just quickly, for those who would like to involve themselves in the Defense Fund, what can they do? How can they contact you?
There's a phone number, 235-2015, that people should call for more information. Linda goes to trial on October 23rd in Towson at 12:30.
Okay.
It's 111 Allegheny Avenue on October 23rd.
Thank you, Keith. We're going to take a break and come right back with the entertainment.
Hello, I'm Harold Anthony, and today my featured artist is one that has written and produced several Grammy Award-winning tunes for other artists, yet he only recently realized his own potential for success as a soloist. Although his past experience has been performing with jazz artists such as McCoy Tyner, Miles Davis, Freddie Hubbard, and the like, he by no means restricts himself to the jazz-only crowd. Outside of writing The Closer I Get to You for Roberta Flack and I Never Knew Love Like This Before for Stephanie Mills, which were both Grammy Award winners, this Philadelphia native has also successfully experimented with punk, funk, bebop, and soul music. As a matter of fact, Mtume for the last 4 years has been working on a symphony for a 63-piece orchestra. And as if to underscore his own boundless talent, he is also collaborating with Billy Joel and Bruce Springsteen to write the soundtrack for an upcoming movie called The White Angel that will star dancing greats Gregory Hines and Mikhail Baryshnikov. There's one fact that cannot be disputed. When you speak of Mtume, you're speaking of a musical genius. Last time we met, I showed you an interview with Howard Rollins from a brand new film called A Soldier Story. This time out, I want to focus in on Howard's co-star who gave a brilliant and powerful performance in the movie. His name is Adolph Caesar, and he plays the hard-driving Sergeant Waters in this dynamic new film. Unlike Mr. Rollins, Adolph Caesar was an original cast member of the Negro Ensemble Company who performed the stage version of this Pulitzer Prize-winning play across the country. I had a chance to meet with Adolph recently, and I asked him how difficult it was to make the transition from his stage interpretation to putting the character on film.
It was different in that, well, just the techniques, you know, of the continuity was interrupted, of course. You know, when you play it's curtain up, curtain down, and there's a flow, and there's an energy level that, you know, a playing level that you have to sustain, whereas in doing a film, it's cut, moving for close-ups, and you have to sort of minimize the pantomime or the facial expressions. You know, if one raises an eyebrow while at cameras, they'd raise on the silver screen, it goes 20 feet, you know, so one can't do all of that sort of stuff. The play itself was a Pulitzer Prize winner. And of course, the Pulitzer Prize is awarded to a work of art that has to do with something in the fabric of American life. And no doubt, needless to say, this does. So I look forward to it, doing all of that. And maybe I'll get another job, you know, who knows.
Adolph Caesar commenting on a soldier story. If you'd like to know more about Adolph Caesar, you'll be interested to know that both he and Howard Rawlins will be featured on an upcoming segment of Evening Magazine right here on Channel 13. For all of you who have an interest in equestrian events, it's time once again for the Baltimore International Jumping Classic, which promises to feature some of the finest horses and riders ever to compete. And to add an unusual twist, Mr. Anton Terrell of the Ballet Theater of Annapolis will once again perform his unique Dance with the Horses. It's all taking place at the Baltimore Civic Center on October 5th, 6th, and 7th. You can order tickets by phone by calling 659-7165. Or for additional information, you can call 752-8488. It's an affair you won't want to miss. You know, the response has been so tremendous to an item that I mentioned in an earlier broadcast that I would like to take this opportunity to remind you that the Baltimore chapter of the Anacostia Cultural Arts Foundation will be offering professional art curricula classes for arts and jazz in the marketplace, beginning on October 1st in the performing areas such as vocal music, dance, poetry, drama, and visual art. I'd also like to mention that performance and contractual opportunities are available. Want to know more? Then simply call the center at 523-0298. Well, that does it for another week. I'm Harold Anthony reminding you to make this first week of autumn a safe one. I'll see you next Sunday.
Thanks, Howard. We're out of time, but we've got to tell you about next week's show. Next week, we will have live in the studio Mr. Roy Ayers, Mr. Tom Brown, and Mr. Lonnie Liston Smith, who will all be performing here.
That's right. And if you want to be a part of that excitement, call us now at 481-1313 and make your seat reservations.
Thank you. I'm B.T. Bentley.
I'm Jackie Hall. Have a good Sunday.